Welcome back, boys and girls, to another episode of, you guessed it, Fix It Again. We've got a 48RE victim in here behind us that has been doing a little bit too much horsepowering, and we've led to some parts failures. The standard size Sonex input shaft said, "No more, sir." This was originally a 1,000 horsepower rated unit, and this thing has been pushed a little bit beyond 1,000 horsepower, and unfortunately, this is what happens when we take an input shaft outside of its realm of what it is capable of doing. This had a lot of abuse. The customer says he really likes to play with this truck a lot, likes to romp on it, and so now he wants to upgrade it to a 35 spline input setup. So we are going to take this thing apart. We're going to see how the rest of it looks like, how it's been doing. I did this one about 1 year and 4 months ago, I believe it was, when I looked at the records on it. He said that everything was working great until it wasn't anymore. So let's see what this thing looks like on the inside, see if there's any areas that need improving, and get this thing set up for a good 1,500 plus horsepower so he can get back out there to having fun. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Absolutely free, keeps you notified every time I post a new video. As always, our first peek is the Overdrive brake clutches, and these things look splendid. Absolutely beautiful, just as good as the day put them in there. Always like seeing that. Always like a nice, happy overdrive. While we're on the subject of overdrive, take a peek at our overdrive directs here, and these things look just as good as the day we put them in. These are beautiful. No need to change anything there. Now, since this thing had a catastrophic shaft failure, you're going to want to make sure to always go through, disassemble everything, and check everything really well. We're going to make sure that there's no pieces of input shaft and any of the planetary gears. Yes, I know this is the overdrive section, but you would be surprised when you break an input, it goes everywhere, especially into the valve body. You break an input, that material absolutely goes in the valve body. That needs to come apart, get sent in for a cut and clean, whatever valve body you have, whatever your builder recommends, do it. Input shaft failures always seem to end up in the valve body. But you're going to want to check the sprag, make sure that there's no pieces of metal hung up in between the springs. I like to go through and I'll clean all this stuff up, and then I'll inspect it all once it's clean again. But just make sure that if you do have a shaft failure, you spend your time, clean this stuff out really good. Normally I would pull the front pump out on this, but because the input shaft just broke off in it, I have to take the valve body out so I can get the second gear band and adjuster, the anchor and the adjuster out of the way so I can get this thing all the way apart. Here's one of the examples of why you need to go through the valve body when you have a broken input shaft. That is all metal hard parts that are on the back side of this filter here. And yes, the filter's job is to keep it out, but if you look in there, it's not really showing up. There's some very fine metal that has made its way into here. And when I get the pump out of this thing, I will show you why. All that broken input shaft ends up in the valve body. So this whole section here is from the pump. And when you break an input shaft and it destroys the stator support like that, all of these passages here are directly linked to the pump, which are also directly linked to the valve body here. So all that metal has a straight shot into this valve body. So that is why it is very critical to send the valve body in, even though this one actually looks really clean, aside from the little bit of black, clutch material on it. This one actually looks really clean. Looks are deceiving. Take this thing apart, guarantee you will find some pieces of broken input shaft in there. Sometimes I've seen guys get lucky, slap a valve body back in, the pieces that are in it end up making their way out. No harm, no foul. Usually doesn't work that way. In my opinion, don't risk it, don't chance it. Definitely don't chance it on a customer's transmission. Fix it right, get the valve body sent back, get it cleaned up. Whatever you got to do, whatever your valve body situation is, take it apart yourself, whatever you're going to do, make sure you do that. So that way you don't have to fix it again. Pump is out. Direct drum and forward clutch hub always come with it, unfortunately. Our second gear band looks excellent. Very nice. Very happy with that. Drum's looking great. Hopefully the forwards look good, as they always should. and the direct clutches look good. And if that's the case, then that'll all make me very happy. Now that's what I like to see. Those direct clutches are mint. They look great, excellent. Choline steels look excellent, beautiful. This transmission was dialed. Unfortunately, sorry little Mr. Sonex 23 spline, you just had too much horsepower put through you. If it wasn't for that, we wouldn't even be having a conversation right now, you and me. It's all right, we're gonna put your big brother in there, the Sonex 35 spline, and send this thing back out there to go have some fun again. Forward clutches are perfect, just like they always should be. Thank you, Mr. Garen Belleville Spring, for helping out and keeping my forwards looking really nice and pretty. So luckily, the input shaft failure did not take out our pump. Our pump body looks to be in good shape. We don't have any scarring in there, nothing scary. The pump gear is in good shape, nothing scarring. We didn't get any metal between the tip to lobes, so everything's nice and happy. Sometimes when these input shafts fail, they can take out the pump too. And when that happens, that is very costly. In fact, I think I have one on the shelf here. Let me go show you. This was a bad day. This was an input shaft failure that split the pump, broke the pump gear. That's actually one of the worst ones that I had ever seen before. This wasn't a transmission that I built, so I don't know the exact details on it, but I know when it came in, that's what it looked like. So this is one that was worth putting in the archives. This is one of the reasons that it's very important that if you think you are going to operate outside the limits of what your builder rates any of the components for, spend the extra money and get the next build up, or even go a little further than that and build it a little overkill to try to save yourself from something like this. Sometimes things just happen that are out of control of humans, but if you can control it, I would highly recommend that you do yourself a favor and buy the right components for your build, or buy more than what you think you're going to need so you don't end up in a situation like this. So another area that I upgrade on anything that's getting pushed over 1,000 horsepower is this front analyst ring gear. That thrust washer likes to get smashed into that ring gear, and that's because of the helical cut design. Oops. The helical cut design on this front planet here. It's basically trying to drive itself into the analyst ring gear and mushrooms the thrust washer. So what we do is put a thrust bearing installed in this. So we basically machine this down, put a Torrentine bearing in it, and that fixes that issue getting away from the thrust washer to a bearing for the higher horsepower stuff. So this one will receive this upgrade. Voila! Back together in a Bengal red to match this customer's truck. We got the new Hotness 35 spline big boy input shaft in her now. This thing is all fixed up and ready to go. So this one's going to head back out to California and go for another round of beating. If you guys made it this far into the video here, I have a question for you. Drop a comment below and let me know where in the country, or better yet, maybe even in the world, you guys are watching these videos from. I have been privileged enough to ship transmissions to over 30 states here in the United States. Shipped a couple to Canada, shipped a couple to Australia. So I think it'd be cool to see not only where my transmissions have gone, but who is watching this channel and who is interested every time we do one of these Fix It Again. So we got this one all fixed up. Thanks for watching again, guys. I appreciate it. Make sure to hit that like, share, and subscribe, so that way it helps get the content out there to more people, so we get more people fixed back up, back on the road, back at the racetrack, back at the sled pulling track, the dirt drag tracks, get everybody out here having fun in 2025. Happy New Year.